Good evening and welcome to Littleton Conservation Commission meeting virtually. It's September 24, 2024. And so we're going to go ahead and start with approval of minutes. And so, Tim, I will say up front, I do have some edits, but I'd like to kind of go through and give them to you now versus submitting them because I'd like to have them approved if I can. So I'm going to go ahead and take the liberty of going first. On page 2, just some grammaticals. Matt Cahill also met with town council, who will be going, add the G at the end of that. Then further down, and Chase, this pertains to you a little bit. It says that you proposed, in parentheses, payment in lieu of, close quote, framework where compensation for the tree removed is calculated by the cumulative diameter of the trees removed as opposed to the number of trees removed. I'd like to add in, when it says compensation for the trees removed is calculated by the cumulative diameter of the trees and species removed as opposed to the number. Are you okay with that?
Yep, that's consistent with the discussion.
Okay. Further down under 555 Newtown, Mr. Ryan asked questions. So grammatically, Ryan, if you could just go back and figure out what Tim, if you could figure that out, that would be great. Okay. Next page, public meeting, request for determination, Lakeshore Drive. So it says, due to the proximity of the knotweed to the wetlands, treatment will be done when rain is in the forecast or when wind is over 4. We need to add in the word that rain is not in the forecast or when wind is not over 4 miles per hour.
I think I meant to say when rain or treatment won't be done when rain is in the forecast.
Okay. So either way, but we have to just make sure it's that way. Next one down, enforcement order 0 Ipswich. Mr. Gallagher was present. It then says the area has naturally vegetated. What I would like to add is Mr. Gallagher was present. He stated the area has begun to naturally vegetate.
Okay.
That would be one that I would add. Next page, Taylor Street. Natural heritage. It says issue A. They issued with a D. And then further down under Eagle Scout, talks about Jonathan and Linus is behind held. It's supposed to be being held. Those are the edits that I have. Does anyone have any other edits?
I think you covered them.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that the commission approve the September 10th meeting minutes as amended.
Second that.
All right. Roll call vote. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Ed.
Ed Pulse, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, great. What I'd like to do is ask, does anyone have anything they'd like to add to administrative discussions for tonight? Tim or anyone, do you have anything? I would like to add the letter that we received from Mr. George Santos, his letter of support for the Littleton Water Department. I'd like to add that as comment. And okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to let Casey in. And so we're going to talk about enforcement order on 30 Warren. And if you reference your attachments, you were sent a mitigation plan for 30 Warren from Foresight Engineering. Casey, you're on. Welcome. Do you want to walk us through where we are?
Yes, so
actually, Casey, if you could introduce yourself formally, that would be great.
I apologize. I'm Casey Kaltenberg, 44 Warren Street.
Okay, great. And then tell us about the 30 Warren Street.
Okay, so where we left off, Chuck Karen had given his wetland restoration plan, and we were still waiting for Scott Hayes to provide his input He had been waiting for some maps, and he got them. And actually, he did not get what he wanted. So he came out 3 weeks ago, and he spent most of the day at 30 Warren Street looking at what Scott Hayes does with Foresight. So he was looking at the water. He looked at Chuck's plan and came up with his plan too, to mitigate any problems from runoff from rain, the gutters, the street. And he unfortunately, I told him to have this ready last Tuesday. So we did provide this on Thursday to Tim and Amy, but it's hard for me to see what I'm saying while I'm looking at this. Do you want me to just read what he had to say, or how would you like me to go about his words?
However you'd like to present it, however be more concise.
Okay, so if you see the house,
Tim, do you want to make it so Casey can screen share for that
Yeah.
so that he can move his cursor?
Sure thing.
Casey, that might
thank
be
you so
easier
much.
for you
Oh,
if you
appreciate
wish.
that. Well, now I just see everybody again.
Sarah, is there a way that I can screen share, but he can move the cursor, or does he have to screen share?
Well, Casey, do you have that plan on your laptop or no?
Well, on an email, I have a hard copy in my hand. I can just go through. If you go back to that map you had, Tim, I apologize. I can just walk
Yep.
you through.
Yep, no worries. Just walk us through.
Yeah, it's pretty easy once I.
If you want to just start your way at the top and work your way down, that might be easier.
Absolutely.
So street, house, wetlands, that area.
Understood.
Sorry, did you want me to pull it up again? I lost internet. I missed some stuff that was said.
So if you can just go ahead and call the mitigation plan back up,
Yeah, okay.
the screen share, that would be great.
Scott Hayes map back up there. Okay, so where you see 30 existing dwelling, if you look towards the top right, yep, that little line to that box, there's a rain gutter there. And you'll see he recommends a 2 foot by 4 foot by 2 foot deep basically box of crushed stone, so that it provides velocity reduction when the rain comes off the roof into that area. And that's actually lawn right there. That's on the highest elevation of property right there. So to reduce any runoff or erosion, he recommends that box there. And then you'll see where his words are, there's a line that goes down to the bottom right corner of the house. Yes, exact same concept, the exact same verbiage is what his recommendations are. He doesn't want to go into the ground right there any deeper than what a box would provide, just to slow the flow of water off the roof. Then if you go to the left where it says deck above patio below, just to the left of your cursor now. I don't see the cursor
Tim, just
moving.
move your cursor to the left. It's not moving. He's stuck.
Tim.
Oh, huh. I'm moving it.
Oh, okay, right there. I see
Saying
it.
not moving.
Yeah, so we discovered right there's a 4-inch box already in the ground. One thing I had noted, and I made mention before in the past, were a lot of piping that was in the ground already that I had removed, PVC pipes. Didn't know what anything was there for, and I just removed a bunch of broken piping, but that looks intact, and it was discovered to be under the ground. We cleared it away. It was underneath next to where the wattle is currently, and he believes that pipe goes straight down where that dashed line is, toward where it says area equals 690 square feet. So he does not want to change that. He actually likes that a lot. It provides everything that he requires in the fact that the water will slow down velocity reduction, and it won't cause any current or future erosion or problems with the runoff. So those were his big insight. He agrees with all of Chuck's work that Chuck had done, provided earlier. And I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry, but do you have any questions?
No, that's okay. Commissioners, any questions? So we have previously gone through Chuck's plan. Any questions for Foresight's plans?
So on the other side of the septic from the house, that big 690 square foot fill, if I read it right, that's all coming out.
That's right. I actually have, not up there at the top.
Down on the bottom, Tim.
Yeah, bottom. There you go. Just to the right of your cursor there. Yes, Dan Sturts. I've hired Dan Sturts to do the work for me, and he's going to meet me at 30 Warren tomorrow at noon. I get out of work a little early, and I'll go over the plan with him and see what he comes up with. Of course, I'll still get with Amy or Tim and get out there with Chuck and Scott to make sure we're all on the same page and we do things properly. The only thing I still really need to do is get snow fencing, something to ensure that none of Littleton Earthworks equipment goes beyond that crushed stone ditch.
Can someone remind me about erosion control? That was back on Chuck's plan, correct?
When we walked it last time, I don't recall there being much need for erosion control itself.
So
Because a lot of the work we looked at was on the
we were just
backside.
gonna do the snow fencing instead?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that, Ed. Okay. Okay,
this
any
picture doesn't show it, but I assume because it's not showing what's being done in the backside with the wetlands and everything, cleaning that out. So they're like two different plans, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
and then we did give Casey permission to kind of clean up that shed area and some of the
Mhm.
leave either some of the down pines or some of them
Yeah.
that
Take out that dead tree, or at least the dangerous tree that was
I
hanging
got rid
there.
of that tree.
Yep.
It's all still there, but I cut it up and I got rid of lots of purple loosestrife already and some honeysuckle.
great.
As prescribed by you, I made sure it went
Yeah.
into a trash bag and I threw it.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like the next course of action is with the commission's blessing of this one is to go ahead, meet with the Sturtses, come on board, and then meet with your two engineers. And then when you're ready to get started, to let Tim or Amy know. And one of them is also happy to be at that joint meeting as well. Just keep us kind of in the loop with a few days' notice. Commissioners, is that the framework that you'd like to go forward with or something added?
Works for
That
me.
sounds great.
Okay. Casey, does that sound appropriate?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So check back in with us. If you could just give Tim or Amy an update for the October 8th meeting. You don't have to be here in person, but just give us an update.
Okay, thank you once again for your time.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
Okay,
you, Casey.
Yeah.
Alright.
Next is a request for a certificate of compliance, 19 Porter Road, Mass DEP 204-1003. Tim?
Yep, Amy mentioned she was the one who went out and looked at the site. She said it's all stable and ready to go.
Okay. If that's the case, do we have a motion?
I move that we, whatever the right word is I'm looking for, issue, thank you. Certificate of Compliance, 19 Porter Road, Mass DEP 204-1003.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Roll call vote. Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Chase
Chase,
Carabay guy.
Ed,
Ed Foltz, aye.
Carl,
Excuse me, Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
and myself, I. It's unanimous.
Excellent. Tree policy?
No substantive things. I've been doing some editing. One thing to note is that the shade tree committee's tree bylaw is going to come before town meeting, not this cycle, but next spring. So we're really kind of trying to align all of those things to make them happen at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Next is Nagog Hill Farm non-lease parcel. As you know, we voted for that language at the last meeting when we were all together. I would like to submit to all of us the requested letter of support from the Littleton Conservation Trust in support of the transfer, custody, control, and management of the approximately 7 acres. Is there any discussion or any other update that we need to know about that? You do all have in your packet the new Ross the plan of the lower parcel that basically just follows that rock wall all the way down. For town meeting, we will have that line highlighted in a different color so the townspeople know that as well. I have had conversation with Will Pickard, who is on the Ag Committee. They're meeting soon, and I asked him if he could put on the agenda this particular warrant article, and did ask them for if they felt comfortable a vote of support for this as well.
Hey, Sarah, question. At some point, I know the house is on the other parcel, but at some point, I know we wanted to keep this one separate for this particular town meeting. Are we at some point going to express any interest so we can figure out the house?
Yeah, so
Parcel?
all I can tell you, so the update that I have is the RFP closed last Friday at 10 o'clock. What I know is that there are 4 people that submitted an RFP. I don't know anything about that. That's for the 49 acres that are APR for lease. We're having a meeting, not this Wednesday, next Wednesday, to go over that. I think, Carl, I just don't know the pathway
Okay,
as of yet, because the committee is somewhat defunct because we fulfilled the mission. And
Yeah.
now we're just kind of going through the motions. The way that I read the RFP is that the town administrator will make the decision ultimately on if there is someone viable for that lease. So I think if we need to have the MAPC meetings, that we're supposed to have 2 of those, which is really about the townspeople telling us what they think we'd like to do with the land. I think that's when that conversation about
Okay.
the house and that because the house was
Yeah.
excluded
right.
from the lease, I think that's still on the back burner. At least from my committee, the select board, I think, may have had other
Okay.
discussions.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Yep, for sure. I wish I had more answers.
No, that's good. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, turtle nesting site walk.
Sarah,
Yep,
well, correct me if I'm wrong, because me and Amy split up the minutes, and she did the last meeting. When she did the minutes for the Nagog Hill parcel, so I didn't see what happened. You guys voted on all of it, correct?
we voted on the very specific language that was given to us from town council. And we adopted that language, which
Okay.
is in, hold on.
So I spoke with Ryan this week, and I think he was looking for another vote for,
No, we already took the vote.
let's see.
The vote was established
Okay.
in our minutes. And so we just approved the minutes. And so if there's a question, I'll read this so that if we feel we need to take another one. So it says, it says the language for the warrant article is, in quotes, to see if the town will vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, 15A, to transfer the care, custody, management, and control of a portion of 94 Nagog Hill Road, Assessor's Parcel R 02-10-0 to the Littleton Conservation Commission for passive recreation, such portion to be identified on a plan of land at town meeting. And then it said the commission concurred to having the language include passive recreation and not inclusive. We took a roll call vote. What we can do now that we know that it's approximately 7 acres. Happy if you guys want to go through just to dot all. But we've already made a vote. We're all here. What do we think we need to do?
So
You're breaking up, Tim.
when I spoke with Ryan this week, sorry.
Yep.
When I spoke with Ryan this week, he wanted to know if you guys wanted to update the language to include parcel 107A. Now that it's got, it's a designation, the designation of the parcel itself.
Sure. So that's a good point. So when we took the vote, it wasn't designated, it was not yet split off.
Right.
So the plan that you have now from Ross and Associates shows the subdivision plan.
Would you like me to share it?
No, we all have it. I think it's
Okay.
more the language.
Gotcha.
So what would you all like to do?
I think it would be helpful to specifically reference, the 7.9 plus or minus acres, and specifically the lot. But I mean, our previous vote stands, of course, but I think specifically referencing it wouldn't hurt.
Okay. So I make a motion that we adopt the languages voted on earlier from September 10, 2024, to include parcel now known as Lot 107-A, which is 7.9 acres on Nagog Hill Road, adjacent to Lot 107B, which is 12.4 acres.
Second. All right, roll call vote. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerber guy.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Kyle.
Maxi Lai.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Myself, I. It's unanimous.
Turtle nesting site, Tim?
Yep. So if we want, we could take this up now, or we have Matt here, Matt Silverman from the Water Department. This is basically just scheduling a site walk to go over the potential turtle nesting habitat areas. We could talk with Matt now. He has an agenda item later in the meeting. We can wait until then. It's up to you guys.
Okay. You also have someone who's not identified in the attendees with just a telephone number. So
I believe-
978-995-1220. If you need to be moved in as a panelist, you would need to identify yourself.
I believe that's John McGeegan from 15.
No. Okay. You have to identify yourself. So I just moved Matt. Did you move Matt over? I'm trying to move him over. So Matt, we're trying to move you over. There we go. Okay. All right. So Matt, all yours. This is the 7:45 continued public hearing notice of intent, Littleton water supply connection, Wickham Ave, Taylor, Street Mass DEP 204-0995, bylaw waiver required, connection of new water supply well to a WTP raw water main and construction of a finished water main from Littleton water supply system to bring a treated water supply to Boxborough. Okay. All yours, Matt.
Thanks for having me. I'm gonna share some slides, if you don't mind. I'll breeze through them pretty quick.
Yep.
But just to kind of give some background, because I know it's been a while since we've been on with you guys. So, yeah, as Sarah said, the project is the water supply connection, the Trumbull well, connecting to Wickham Ave, being piped to our treatment plant over there. And then in addition to that, extending the water main on Wickham Avenue into Boxborough. So some general background, like I said, this project's 2 separate contracts. They're kind of complementary with each other because without developing this well site, we really don't have the water supply capacity to connect the public water systems in Boxborough. You can see the extent of the project here. There's our well site access area and then the piping. I'll show some better plans later, but that's kind of the general overview. So this is sort of the site we've had a lot of discussion about. Hopefully that's somewhat clear. We can again go through this in a little bit more detail after, but this is most of what we were kind of reviewing in our earlier meetings as far as access points, infrastructure at the 153 Taylor Street site. So some updated numbers on the impacts to wetland buffer area. These were submitted, I think, last week to Amy. So it looks like there's going to be 2,394 square feet of proposed alteration to the BLSF at the well station, as well as permanent alteration in the existing cross-country area. Flood storage on site hasn't been changed at the Trumbull well site. Riverfront area impacts total square footage of 13,547, which is all temporary. A lot of this, again, is in the existing roadway, as well as parallel to Route 2, but this is all temporary excavation, which will then be covered in all underground, so no surface impacts. And then we also discussed some tree replanting because we do have to take down a few trees on the Trumbull well site. So I think, yeah, the next slide, I have a photo here of where we're proposing to put those. Being mindful of the required radius. Those are the 12 trees, and the species that we were chosen are 4 swamp white oaks, 4 red maple, and 4 hackberry. And then really the big ticket item, the newer information that I'd like to kind of touch on tonight is the conservation and management permit, which was issued by the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. And this was due to a take of Blanding's turtle from pumping the well during the pumping test. So basically the conservation and management permit instructs us how to avoid and minimize impacts to Blanding's turtle and ensure long-term net benefit so that we are still able to develop that well site and withdraw water from it to supply the town. So basically the observed impacts to the Blanding's turtle occurred in 2 separate pumping tests. The first one was just 1 wetland feature, and then the second one we actually monitored, I think, 7 or 8 wetland features to confirm any impacts. And we did see some drawdowns in those monitored wetlands over the course of the 15-day pumping test. And again, this is all referenced in the CMP, so I'm happy to show these documents and maps after we have a discussion. So basically the CMP conditions, there's a long list of them. First, there's a turtle protection plan that was issued for construction. So this includes contractor education, monitoring of construction, doing turtle sweeps, that kind of thing, as well as the remote monitoring, which has already been set up. A lot of the turtles in the area have already been tagged and we're able to do remote telemetry on them, as well as some conventional turtle protection in the form of fencing. Turtle exclusion fencing. We're also required by the CMP to do long-term monitoring of the 4 impacted ephemeral features, do some nesting habitat creation. This would be a phased approach, which I can also discuss later, but in the initial phases, we would need to create 1 nesting habitat. And then in order to actually pump the well at the amount that the CMP prescribes us, which is 184 gallons a minute, we would have to create a second habitat. And then if we were going to double that withdrawal, which we believe the well is definitely capable of hydrogeologically managing, then we would have to create a 3rd nesting site. And then other conditions include creation of ephemeral wetland feature, a constructed ephemeral wetland feature, and doing some long-term monitoring there, which would be proposed on the Trumbull Well property. Habitat use, movement, and habitat occupancy monitoring of the Blandings turtle, and nest protection and head starting. So that's really all I have as far as newer information, but I know you had the CMP distributed to you, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. So if there's anything in there that you'd like me to clarify or discuss, I'm happy to do that, as well as any other details related to the project.
And Matt, I think just to remind the commissioners that we're very fortunate that everyone's been able to work with Oxbow, who tends to be, we're really very fortunate that you have a good relationship with them, as does conservation. So I think they're hopefully going to be very, very thorough. Everything that I've read so far, it's been, right on par for them as we look at that whole area with some of the adjacent properties as well.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners have any questions? I think you'll also see that in your packet, it was provided for you, the 6-page document outlining order of conditions should you vote on that this evening. So that was sent to you as well. Does anyone have any questions for Matt? I think obviously this is going to be a long-term plan, and there'll be some obviously different site visits as well.
Yeah, and one thing I would like to add on to that is we are hoping to come back and file a second NOI for all the work related to the CMP. So we don't have all the details right now, and there are some conditional things in there as far as like where the nesting sites will actually go. So we wouldn't proceed with the entire CMP as written until we get second approval from the commission.
Right. So thank you for that reminder. So that's not what we're voting on right now, and we still have to go do another site walk for that and for those areas as well. And that's on our discussion item.
So I guess a bit of question on that. I understand what we're voting or potentially voting on tonight, but that letter basically, what do you have to complete from that CMP prior to actually working? Wasn't there certain things of that CMP that need to be completed prior to A, the well installation, and then B, piping?
Yeah, so I'll try to, it's a very extensive document as you've seen, so I'll try to kind of summarize, but most of these tasks have different phases. So each of the tasks has like a phase 1, which is essentially the construction prior to pumping. So as far as monitoring goes, we'd have to implement that monitoring program before, we're already actually doing that. We're monitoring those 4 ephemeral features. Let's see. Obviously, the turtle protection plan would be during construction, and then let's see. I know the nesting sites. Yeah, so no later than the initiation of pumping the well, we would have to have the first nesting habitat created, and then within a year after the initiation of pumping, that second nesting site would have to be created. And then monitoring, we would require 2 years of initial turtle monitoring and telemetry, as well as the wetland monitoring, and I believe the wetland creation. The wetland creation is required within 1 year of the initiation of pumping. So we're really looking to jump on it as soon as we can. We've gone out to bid for the project, and it will likely take at least 2 years, and most of these the first phase of these tasks is 2 years. So
Just want to make sure you're keeping track of what needs to get done. There was 20 specific conditions outlined there that aren't simple tasks. So if you need to come back before us again, just make sure you're keeping up with it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, we're hoping to get all of the details kind of organized and come back to the commission as soon as we can, and kind of jump on it early, get those site walks done, and get the NOI filed within the next month or two.
Great.
So I think we had a tentative date of November 6th, I believe, and then ultimately what we talked about is maybe trying to see if we could even do that earlier. Was unsure whether it was better to have leaf litter on the ground or still in the trees. So when Amy's back, we'll see how best to go forward with that. But that is a discussion item that we have coming up as well. Any other commissioners have any questions? I know I mentioned earlier a letter of support from Mr. Santos, asking he could not join us tonight, but to ask to have a letter of support with this project.
Oh, Sarah, it's
Yeah.
Sanders actually.
Sanders, yeah, Sanders, what is it? Yes. Sorry about, thank you for that. George Sanders, Senior. What would you all like to do? If you're in support of it, we can have a motion and acknowledge the order of conditions that have been provided to us, or ask for additional information.
I don't have any additional information I'm looking for here, Sarah. I'd be comfortable going forward.
All righty, want to make a motion? And a waiver.
If I could find the agenda on my computer, I would make a motion.
You want me to go, Chase?
Yeah, if you got it.
I'll make a
Thank
motion
you.
to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions of the most intent for the Littleton Water Supply Connection, Whitcomb Ave and Taylor Street, Mass DP number 204-0995, including a bylaw waiver.
I'll second it though.
All right, roll call vote. Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Michael. Oh, Michael, I think you're on mute.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Ed,
Ed Fultz, no.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Carl,
I'm over, guy.
Chase,
Chase Carvey guy.
myself, I. It's unanimous. Sorry, we've got 6 yays and 1 nay.
1 second, Chase, I've got here in my notes, that you might not be able to vote because you recused yourself for 2 meetings.
I was mixing this up with a different water department project. So
Okay.
I think
Gotcha.
I'm okay here.
Just trying to make sure.
Yeah, the other water department project is one that I need to recuse myself from.
Gotcha.
Okay. So 5-1 carries, okay. Matt, you should be all set.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt. Good luck.
Good night, Matt.
Good night.
Okay. It's now 8:08. I'd like to open the 8 o'clock continue discussion enforcement order for 15 Powers Road. So,
Tom, are
Tim,
you there?
Don is muted.
Hello? Hello?
John?
Hey, can you hear me?
yep.
Yep, if you could just introduce yourself.
John McGagan. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I got the unmuting correct.
Yep. Okay. All right. Welcome back, John. So just to recap in the notes, there was actually, Tim, if you can call that up with photos and notes.
Yep, sure.
So I think for the most part, everybody has seen 15 Powers Road. And what I'd like to do is to open up discussion of the path. This is a continued of an enforcement order of what we would like to have the owner, although I know you're not the owner, John, of 15 Powers Road. So Tim, if you could,
Yep, I'm trying to screen share.
John, I'm not sure if you can see us or if you're just on with your phone. Tim is calling up photos from the site walk the other day.
Yep.
Okay. Who would like to take the lead on this discussion? commissioners?
Who was out there most recently? But I wasn't able to make it since that most recent site walk, so I can't really speak for what you've seen.
Yep.
Or what's been.
Michael, you want to give it a
since then.
whirl?
For anything it's
Uh,
worth, nothing has changed in months.
Michael, if you want to just do an overview of what we've seen and what some of the concerns might be.
Sure, I can try. I'm not sure I'm on thick enough ice, but we'll see. I've actually been out twice, and briefly what we've seen is, there's been a certain amount of expansion of the driveway area and outdoor space to kind of level it and make some room for parking vehicles and equipment. What I understand is that the material used is scrapings from road maintenance and a variety of other construction materials and what have you. I understand that the footprint or the area, and I wish I could draw on the screen here. The slope hasn't been extended, but it's much steeper than it had been previously. We've seen that there's a variety of items that are stored in various locations. There's been rocks that have been moved around or brought in to make a barrier. And I think that's a brief summary. So I think the concern was whether the edge of the driveway is going to remain stable, how various replantings can be put in and expected to be thriving. And that's all I have off the top of my head.
Okay, no, that was great. I think Kyle and I can add into that. I think that concerning to me is the expansion of fill in the resource area. Obviously, outside storage of items that need to be removed. The owner had stated that rocks had been brought in, pretty substantial rocks as well. I do feel that the fill that was used outside of the tailings from the road is construction debris. You've got outbreaking of full concrete blocks that obviously is not going to stabilize well. You do have breakout that's occurring on the driveway coming down already. And we did comment on that on the last site walk last week.
Sarah, is it your opinion based on that? And I apologize, I haven't seen the site, just the photos, but that the restoration here needs to involve the removal of the low quality soil and replacement with actual soil as opposed to construction debris.
Yeah, I think that's the part. I think we're looking at twofold. You're looking at restoration and mitigation. So in terms of trying to, by having a professional such as what we did with, Foresight and Chuck Aaron, is to come in and see where is virgin soil back. So you can see where the utility trailer is and some of the bigger boulders, that has been obviously enhanced there. And then as you go to the back of the property, just more area has been cleared and there's just a lot more storage there as well. So you have that balance of pervious versus impervious as well.
See, it looks like here, looking at these photos, that we need and I know we've seen some like hand-drawn plans, but it seems like we need a professionally developed restoration and mitigation plan.
I think you'd have to find where the actual wetlands line is. I think it was shared with us that the majority of the backyard is in the 0 to 50. Because as you go up towards the street, you get into the 100. So you can see just fill that's been added and items that
I
are.
wouldn't say
that
a
are near
majority of the backyard. When we had the most recent walkthrough, I had the 50 and 100-foot buffers marked
Yeah.
out. And it's a small section, is of work done is inside the 50. So I don't know if I'd necessarily say most of the yard. I'd say a very small portion.
Okay, so,
Um,
and that could be fair enough, so that what we do is we defer to a wetland scientist who can actually look at the soils and the vegetation. I think, because there's been so much altered, I think it's hard. And I think you were rightfully so to pull it off the corner of the house going by the old plans. But that's where a specialist, it's not us to say where the lines are. We're here to verify them. So commissioners, what would you like to do so we could send the owner on a path to kind of recovery for all of this?
Yeah, I think we gotta, yeah, so Tim, these were a little, can you kind of walk us through what you're showing right now, what we're trying to show with the pink versus blue lines?
Yeah, so the blue line right here was the original width, and the current width right now is the pink line. So
Okay, all right, so that a little extension towards the bottom
Right.
of that photo, okay.
this bit right here.
That's what I was saying, and that's where that trailer is stored in that photo, obviously. That's
Oh,
my,
what
make
you're
any
showing there, Tim, is the length and not the width. It hasn't gotten 6 inches wider. It's gotten several feet longer. Okay.
If it's any different, that trailer has been sold, and it's kind of this open space that back there now.
yeah, I was just referencing an area, I guess. I mean, I guess the point is that
Right.
it could be used like that in the future, right? Regardless of what's there now. That was my point going is that, yeah, you can see where
I'd
it's
agree,
changed
I'd
drastically in this photo, right? Like that was a vegetated area that hadn't been touched or filled, and now it's been expanded with, not high quality material, with rubble and cinder blocks, concrete blocks that, if we were to have come in front of us from the get-go, we would not have permitted something like that. I think is
I
what
don't
you're.
disagree. I would just refer back to the plan that I showed you guys last meeting. Hey, can you guys give me a
Yep,
minute?
and that was helpful for us going out on site too, so that,
To show you to show where I plan on the grass coming to, which is the end of the driveway, just there was a trailer there because it was a good spot for it. The trailer has been sold and it's not there, and that'd be a good spot for grass is what I'm trying to get at.
I think it would be hard pressed to have vegetation grow on some of the debris
I mean, my opinion is that you have to get that undesirable fill out of there and get something would grow in. I mean, I think that's step one. Step one is getting a wetland scientist to put down the exact wetland line so we know what we've been dealing with. And then getting that undesirable, I'm not even going to call it soil, it's called debris out of there and start fresh. That's the intent. Mr. McGaggy, you said you're not the owner, you live there? Or
Both, I guess.
oh, both? Okay.
Who actually owns the property?
A trust.
A trust? Who was the trustee?
Me.
So you own the property then? You control it through a
Yeah, I
trust, but
also-
you are effectively owning it.
Right.
Well,
I just said both.
it depends how many people are in the trust, Ed, right? If he's the only person in the trust, yes, but if there's other siblings or anybody else. that may not be true, but anyway, I just asked a question because I was just trying to clarify because I had heard that during this presentation. I just want to make sure that we're including the right people. If we need to be including the trust, we should include the trust in all this too.
That's a good point.
I,
But
yeah, I'm at an impasse here. I'm the sole trustee of a trust that owns the house that I live at. Therefore, I both own the house and I live here in the form of a trust.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that. Okay, so we are under an enforcement order, so the goal here is for us to give him a path forward and a time frame of which you have to have performance done.
I mean, let's go through what we've requested, right? We've requested a wetland delineation from a professional wetland scientist. We've requested a restoration plan that includes pulling back the slope and removal of the objectionable materials. We've requested a restoration plan that includes clean soils and vegetation. And I think last week 2 weeks ago, we also requested a restoration plan that the restoration plan include plantings as part of the mitigation.
And that includes removal of structures in the 0 to 50, correct?
Okay, right. And sure. And the restoration plan should include removal of structures in 0 to 50.
Okay.
But I mean, I think when you put those things together, and I think we should come back and make sure that list is comprehensive for the property owner. Once you put that together, it's going to be a couple weeks, but I don't want this to just sort of fritter on. Like we need a date certain where we have those things. There's got to be a deadline. And 2 weeks, in my opinion, is too close, but 4 weeks is probably right. It's a little hard, but not trivial to get it done in 4 weeks. And we're
So-
talking about the plan, not the actual work.
Right, so we meet again on October 8th and October 22nd. So I think what I'm hearing is timeframe would be October 22nd for to show due diligence that you have hired or engaged, how would you frame that? Engaged
Well,
a wetland scientist. Yep.
I guess let me say this. I expect those plans on October 22nd. Not like just, hey, I've retained someone to do the plans.
Yeah, I don't think a month is reasonable, given the circumstances.
I mean, I'm happy to extend it to essentially 6 weeks, where 4 weeks out we have evidence that a professional was retained, but I'm not comfortable extending it any further than that.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chad. I think we have to have just another check-in at a minimum that shows that you're working, and you can give an update on why.
I think a check-in, we could probably do a check-in in 2 weeks. But I think asking for everything you're asking for in a month is not realistic.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is
But I
that
mean,
we're gonna have a check-in. So let me modify this request. So we'll have a check-in on October 8th, which is 2 weeks. And so at that point, hopefully you could have someone, an engagement letter, and then we will go out 1 month from there to have plans that have acknowledged all the previous conversations and items. And so I'm not familiar with what the November date is. Tim, you'll have to. Yep.
It's the 12th. So there's a 3-week gap between the
Okay,
22nd.
Great. So even a little extra time.
Okay.
Sir, I want to. You said you're looking for this. I'd like to be a little more explicit,
Sure.
at least in terms of my expectations. 2 weeks from now, we need to see an engagement letter from a professional wetland scientist and an engineer or other qualified professional who's been retained to provide the items that we just discussed, or we re-explore fines and tickets and all that crap, right? Like that, 2 weeks. That's the
Can I
deadline.
just deal
The
with the
deliverable is a
non-DEP
retention
directly?
agreement.
So, and I think, that we had an
Can I
applicant
just deal with the
on,
Mass DEP directly?
pardon me?
No.
Am I allowed to deal with the Mass DEP directly?
Well,
So now you guys are conflicting each other. It's kind of a I mean, I hate to say yes or no, but I thought up until this point we've been pretty communicative, moving towards getting a resolution to this, and now this meeting has been very
oh, with all due regard, photographs
No.
don't do justice to what's on site. So, I feel as though we perhaps were on a path, but now what you're hearing is that the majority of commissioners have been actually physically on the site. And yes, their opinions have changed based on what they have seen. I can't speak for them, but I can speak for myself that I feel as though
Well,
there's been some egregious filling.
and let me be clear about what, like, my perspective here. I'm not trying to set these firm deadlines for any punitive reason. I'm trying to set these firm deadlines because if we don't implement this relatively quickly, it's going to be like this until the spring. So we've got to move through these
I've
things
been
quickly.
talking with Amy about for the last month.
Yep, and
Hence
Amy's been trying to
get you guys
get
back
us
to another
out
site
on
walk. As
site
soon as
based
we had
on
the
your
last
schedule,
meeting, I
sir.
immediately got the 50 and 100-foot buffers marked out and communicated with Amy to get her out here. And as soon as we could, I think it was exactly 2 days, within a week of the meeting, site members were here.
Yeah, and that's good, and we appreciate that. We just want to keep it moving.
One of the other things that we talked about the last meeting was taking that old septic plan that has all of everything marked out on it and use that to also note the plantings so that we would have specific, instead of a hand-drawn picture. And I mention it only because I didn't hear that in your list, Chase.
When we did the walkthrough, I asked if there was anything for the next meeting I should have ready or bring. And it was very clear that you guys were to discuss the work that had been done here and go over it, and we'd review that at the next meeting.
This is what we're doing
Which we
now.
just
We
did.
can't have those conversations. They have to be in an open meeting. And this is what this forum is. So that's why we can't have off-bar conversations of what needs to be done. So this is the first time that collectively you have the commissioners here having this discussion.
But Mr. McGill, to the extent that you don't think a month is sufficient to get those plans put together, I think what you've heard from us is, great, we'll set the deadline for that for 7 weeks for actually having the plans put together. But we still want to know 2 weeks from now that the professionals have been retained to do that.
Yeah, as soon as I can, I'm going to reach out and see what wetland scientists are available and check out pricing, and I'm going to have to shop around. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. Again, single father, 2 kids. I work 40, 50 hours a week.
So previously tonight, there
We
was
really
a
are.
homeowner on at 30 Warren Street who was in a similar predicament, and he was able to hire both specialists. You might want to reach out to him and see who his resources were, and the time frame that he was able to hire them as well. So that is on the agenda. You can see who that person was. Okay, so we have to keep moving on. So we are putting you forward for October 8th, and Tim will email you in the coming days, provided you want it by email or certified mail, the letter that states the items that are needed for November 12th. Commissioners,
So I
anything
just have
else?
one last question.
Sure.
I want to circle back. Is me dealing with Mass DEP directly? Is that I gotta know.
You're,
Can I reach
you're
out
under an
to Kimberly?
enforcement, you're under an enforcement order right now. And my understanding is that if you do not comply with the enforcement order, then you could potentially deal just with DEP, which I would have to look and see.
You don't actually know the answer.
let's be clear though, this has been going on for quite some time. And at every meeting, there have been lots of attempts to assist what you have to provide, how you provide it. There's been site walks. Now, there's been a specific list of items that you're going to have communicated to you. The fact that we're looking for a commitment by 2 weeks that you've actually engaged the appropriate folks, that should not be an unreasonable period of time. Not saying they have to actually do the work, but you have to have at least hired them.
That doesn't make any sense. But I do want to say, like, I mean, we had a meeting, it was probably a month or 5 weeks ago, where you asked me to reach out to an engineer. And or maybe it was the last meeting. And I told you, I don't have the resources to reach out to an engineer. I was able to get, thank you, Amy, a copy of the septic plan and transcribe that over to my backyard to be able to appropriately scale where the plants are going to go and the 50 and 100 foot buffers. So nothing has changed between the last meeting and this current meeting, where I now have the resources to go get both an engineer and a wetland scientist. I'll look into the wetland scientist, but I mean, it doesn't make sense that I can hire somebody but then have them not do the work. That's just lying to your guys' faces.
That's not what we're saying.
No,
We're saying we want to know that you hired them, and then come the November meeting, we want to know that the work is actually in progress.
right. That's a good faith. So at the present time, your fines have ceased. There's no more tickets because we are moving this ball forward for you. So we have every intention of asking you to hire in good faith those 2 professionals and work on rehabilitating the site. And that's in good faith. So it would be up to the commissioners on October 8th. If you don't do things in good faith, then perhaps the clock would start ticking again.
And then, I mean, I've expressed that I intend on reaching out to a wetland scientist, but I don't want to get into it because it just sounds ridiculous. Are you going to start just fining me again every day for the rest of my life? Or until I have to deal with Kimberly at the Mass DEP, who's really easy to deal with?
I'm not sure what your
Mass
concern
DEP is involved in this. So whenever there's an enforcement order, they're aware of it. So you're certainly welcome to call them. They're aware of the fines. They're aware that those have been put on hold.
I know, I've been in touch with Matt.
Okay. So commissioners have anything else?
No.
Okay. So we will look forward to seeing you on October 8th, and Tim will send you a list of items, and Tim can reference that, send that along to DEP as well.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on. It's now 8:33 to the 8:15 update enforcement order 0 Ipswich 015-16-0. Commissioners were asked to go out and look at the vegetation on that. I see that Mr. Gallagher's not here, which I don't think that we anticipated him to be there. I went back out on the site. Commissioners, your thoughts on vegetation?
Sarah, one real quick. Mark did say he's not going to be here. He asked that.
No, that's right. That's fine.
He asked, yeah.
So,
he needed.
So he's not going to be here. We'll just move it. You want to just hold off, and we'll do it the next time.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you guys are going to opt for the plantings and you want to be in this year, it's getting a little late. You guys don't have to continue because it's not a public meeting or public. It's just discussion. It's really up to you guys.
It's an enforcement order. So,
I mean, I've got the same opinion here that I have with respect to the previous enforcement order, which is that we tend to be very, well, let's see what you can get to us and things like that. And we've seen in this case, that's resulted in nothing happening.
Right.
I think 2 weeks from now, we need to determine right here and right now, what do we expect to have 2 weeks from now? And if we don't have it, what are the consequences?
Right. Having seen the site where kind of the cattails are, I don't want to interfere with that, but as you first enter, you've got wood chips there. There's no vegetation. There's some old rubble from the built-on site. You've got the stumps that were not revegetated. I personally would like to see a planting plan there, because also one of my concerns is when the adjacent field, God forbid if that ever gets developed, there's not going to be any trees in that neck of the woods. So I would like to go ahead and see a robust planting plan in the first section, not going down into the wetlands or behind there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a kind of a combination of what Chase had mentioned last week and then what you just mentioned, Sarah. I think there's plenty of area on that site that needs some help, some vegetation, but I also agree that stuff looks good in some of that, in a lot of that area out there that we probably should leave. So I agree. Maybe not the planting plan that they had originally provided, but find something new.
Okay. Any other commissioners that's gone out or have input on this? Who designed, can you remind me who designed the planting plan that they submitted?
Was it Sue Carter?
I think it was Sue Carter.
Yeah, Sue Carter sounds right. Yep.
Okay. Is there a commissioner that would like to take the lead on this particular project to help work with Sue, that if she has questions or bounce it off?
Sure. You want me to reach out to her and start a dialogue? Is that what you're asking?
No, I think Tim just let Sue know that we would like something for next week, and if she has a quick question or needs a question out on site, that to just try and connect with Kyle.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just a quick digression, Sarah, for everyone's edification. I pulled up the MACC handbook, and enforcement orders issued by a conservation commission cannot be appealed to Mass DEP, but may be appealed to Superior Court.
Yeah, I think we had that conversation that Amy made that pretty clear that any appeal likely that he was going to make would have to go to the court, not to the DEP.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Chase. All right, let's go ahead, and before we circle back to administrative discussions, let's go ahead for the 8/20 continued public hearing notice of intent, 13 Winged Cove Road. Mass DEP 204-1008, bylaw waiver required, demolition, reconstruction of existing house. Has this been postponed?
Yeah, Kyle didn't have his revisions ready, so he requested to be continued to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Let's jump back to administrative discussions. Turtle nesting site walk, as you may have heard earlier, if we can just put in, save the date, I think that's November 6th.
What was the conversation about having it earlier, or was that off the table?
I think, but we'll have to wait till Amy gets here. And I think the water department is looking to see, I'm not sure if Oxbow or somebody has to be there as well. I think how we left it was like, we'll let their minds, Tim, maybe you might know more about that.
Yeah. Okay. I think they were looking for Oxbow to be there during the site walk.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd want them to be there for sure.
Terminal sites and but I would like to do it before November 6th if we could, but okay. Goals, priorities, and budget. You want to wait till Amy's back? Or is there something on that?
Well, as its own meeting, as a special meeting, or did you want to take it on regular meetings?
Hey, sorry, you were breaking up. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, my bad. Did you guys want to take this on as its own meeting, as a special meeting, or address it at one of our regular meetings?
Up to you all.
It might actually be good to have kind of like a subcommittee take this on, maybe with Amy and Tim, just kind of go over any potential large expenditures or goals for the year. I think at a regular meeting it might be a little tricky to kick it around and really get something. Good.
Okay.
I like that suggestion a lot, Andrew.
Yep. Do we have people to do that? So in the same breath, the next one, the town parcel review, I know that I volunteered to help with that, and I know somebody else volunteered as well.
Yep.
Yes.
So sorry, Andrew, I didn't hear what you said. What'd you say?
I was just going to say, yeah, it was me.
Okay. So
I think the two dates we have are October 9th and 15th at 4:30. So if you guys can just let me or Amy know which one of those works best for you guys. We'll probably try to get
Wait a minute.
so
You're
we can get the
breaking up.
TV,
Let me just look at
everything
that.
up.
October 9th or 15th.
I mean, I assume those are two of the dates that were on the doodle that she sent out, right? That was for this.
Yeah. Yep.
I think
She
I
picked
missed
those.
that.
You already said you were available.
Did I fill it in?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll wait and see. Okay. So with Kyle, Andrew, and myself with Town Parcel, who wants to help with goals, priorities, and budgets? Ed, Michael, Carl.
I can help with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
I don't know
I'll
what
help with that.
it's involved in, but certainly.
Okay. So Michael, Tim, if you could send out maybe a doodle for that committee.
Yep.
And then we'll try and, so if we'll split up. So 3 of us can meet, but 4 of us cannot. So we have to make sure open meeting, 3 can do it, 4 cannot. A reminder, November 13th, MACC webinar, stormwater for commissioners. Those are really, really helpful. And then Amy sent along one of the ones that I'm doing next week. That is, hold on, if I can figure out what it is. Oh, October 8th, the integrated pest management for aquatic invasive species, specifically purple loosestrife. So that was October 8th. That's virtual as well. Okay. Anything else?
I had just one more thing. 161 Tehadawon. They are the ones who had they've got the enforcement order for taking down the trees. We're waiting on the septic. We just got the filing for the septic, and the location of the replantings for next
Be
meeting.
done in November. Like we're we're having the same conversations here about all of these sites now.
So we meet on October 8th. So, but that's a replacement system or a new system?
Placement.
Yeah, it is a replacement.
So I think the trees can come down, but Kyle, with that regard, they
The trees
probably
already came
wouldn't.
down.
They wouldn't plant until the spring now. But
So
the order of conditions is going to be out for at least a year or 2.
That's
The
what
trees are already down.
Yeah,
They
yeah, that
have-
was my point. That the trees have already been cut down. They've been down for 3 or 4 months now, type thing. Right? We're in the same boat where this is just linger. I know we said we were going to wait for the septic to go ahead with the mitigation and planting plan. I was under the assumption it was going to happen this year.
Oh, did you say sorry. Did you say Tehadawon?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I was thinking something over at Mattawanakee. Okay. So it wasn't on the agenda, so we can't vote on anything.
I mean, it is what it is.
Just put it on
Okay.
October 8th and,
Yeah, I was just wanting to let you guys know that we did get that in front of us.
okay.
And we also had the site walk at the storage facility in Newtown. I don't know if anybody,
Yeah, they requested to be continued to next meeting. Or is it next? I think it's next meeting.
okay,
So
Yeah,
for that
that's what
next
we-
meeting, I believe a site walk report was submitted. If that can just be resubmitted with that packet for that meeting, that would
Yeah.
be a good refresher.
Sure thing.
Okay.
it'll be a busy meeting.
Pardon me?
It's going to be a busy meeting.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
For sure. Okay.
I may not be able to be at that meeting either. I have a conflict.
He conveniently says after he finds out.
Well, that's why I wanted to get it out now before it's like we actually see the agenda and they're like, oh, I know what you're up to.
Okay.
Oh,
Motion to adjourn.
At 8:44. Do we have a second?
second,
All right. Final roll call vote. Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle,
Maxfield, I.
Cheese,
Choose Kirby guy.
Carl,
Paul Melberg, aye.
Ed,
Ed Foltz.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
and myself. It's unanimous.
Thank you for watching us, Sophie. Good night.
Thanks, Sophie.
Night,
Everybody.
guys.